goodness! Big Christmas has tied.
Hit well out to right center field. Jones still on the move, running out of room, and he makes it.
Hits one in the air, left center field, back it goes! Harper, the swing of his life! Freeman hits the ball to right field. She is gone! Gibby, meet Freddie! Start the party, Los Angeles! Your Dodgers have won the World Series!
Alright everybody, welcome back in, hanging in the dugout, episode 4 now. A lot of exciting stuff right before the new year hits this weekend. A little bit of trade buzz, a little bit of free agency market, and some meetings went down that could potentially lead to hopefully a signing of a very highly touted international prospect. All exciting stuff. I'm ready to jump in if you are.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about your boy first. He's not going to be in the Yankee pinstripes no more.
Yeah. The Detroit Tigers went and got Gleyber Torres on a 1-year, $15 million deal to become their everyday second baseman. So that, 1, ends his Yankee tenure, and 2, gives him a chance to play for an entirely new team, which he has not done yet in his MLB career yet. So, what do you think? I mean, I kind of like the deal for Detroit.
I like it. I mean, do you think 15 mil was a lot?
I mean,
on a 1 year?
Looking at some of Gleyber's numbers, obviously last year, it's his second worst statistical year outside of 2021. So if you're going based off that, I would say yes, it's an overpay. But kind of looking at the majority of the rest of his numbers, he's a guy that sits high 7s, low 8s in the OPS range. He's going to give you 20 plus home runs every year, which is huge out of the second base spot. 15 mil on a 1-year deal. The Tigers can probably stomach that. It won't be the worst thing ever. I like the numbers on the deal, and I think it's exactly what Gleyber was looking for. So I think as a whole, the deal is a good deal for both sides. But I can see, I guess, if you're basing it off of just last year's numbers, how that would be a little bit of an overpay for him.
No, it's just you usually see 1-year deals, like for decent marketed people around that 12, 13. This was at 15. So I think it was, they added extra money, which, I mean, happens. I mean, it's the more the market in baseball is, and we'll talk about the market a little bit later in this episode. But the big thing was, I guess the Yankees told him after the loss, you're not coming back at all. So they didn't offer him anything.
It did kind of seem that Cashman wanted nothing to do with him or Rizzo. There was a statement that came out that said there's no real intent of making contact or anything like that. And Gleyber held out for a decent amount of time, but it just doesn't seem like that contact was ever made out or anything like that. So
yeah, I mean, we talked about Brian Cashman working in the front office last episode, and I mean, he's done it. I mean, this was, I think this was a move to say, let's let Gleyber go. We like Gleyber, but, we want to be better. And, I mean, he ends up in Detroit.
Yeah, and again, it's probably a little bit of looking at it from last year's perspective. He barely had an OPS over 7, which is around the league average. But also the errors. He led all of baseball with 18 at second base. I mean, you can't have that. It's a defensive liability, and when his bat isn't working, it's an all-around liability. And obviously the base running issues were there too for a while, but it's always hard saying goodbye to a player that's been tied to the organization for as long as Gleyber was. He came over in the Chapman trade in 2016 and basically grew up through the Yankee system and spent a good 7 years in the major league club, with a total of 9 years in the organization as a whole. So almost half of his life right there. No, not half, more of like a third of his life right there in one place. It's kind of hard to say goodbye to that.
No, I mean, most certainly, this kind of reminds me of the Phillies with Rhys Hoskins, a couple years ago, where, a guy who, had defensive errors, was okay offensively, but, the ties needed to be cut, and they were end up cut. And, hey, we still love you. We appreciate everything you did, but, we you have to move on. So
yeah, for the future, you got to make some tough decisions. And like Reese, I think he had a pretty good year in Milwaukee, so it works out for both sides. As a fan of the team and Gleyber, I like Gleyber as a player. Obviously, you want to see things work out for both sides, but we'll see what happens. I like that he's the everyday second baseman. I think that gives him an opportunity to be comfortable in a spot that he already is in. And I mean, we saw that with the Nationals. Like, they offered him, I think, more money than Detroit did, but he declined because they wanted him to play third base. And he's like, no, I'm a second baseman. So obviously he feels comfortable with Detroit. So hopefully that works out in his favor and the Yankees' favor, because they need a second baseman now. So we'll see how that goes.
The other thing with the Detroit Tigers is we have rumors circulating around Anthony Santander to Detroit. So, I mean, if that's a big signing, I mean, this Tigers team is going to be good.
That would be a really big pickup offensively for them. Switch hitter, I mean, the 40 home run potential is still there. He just hit 44 this last year. You could slide him right into that DH spot, and you have a good 4-hole there. Tigers could be scary if they pick him up. So I would be interested to see if they pursue that any further than what we've heard already.
Yeah, well, moving on into other news, we had Teoscar Hernández. Well, he's coming back to the Dodgers on a 3-year, $66 million deal with a 4th-year option. You're a Dodgers fan. You love this. I mean, he's been the heart and soul of the locker room. Employees love him. The beat writers love him. You have heard nothing but great things for Teoscar in LA, and you think, him coming back. I didn't see him going anywhere else. I couldn't picture it in my head. But, it's a great move for the Dodgers, and they're still one of the top teams in the NL, or they're the top team in the NL right now. So
yeah, I mean, there's nothing that I really saw going on with his market that said he's going anywhere else. So it made the most sense that he came back. But it also just makes sense in general, because looking at his numbers, he had a career year. This is his most valuable year as a player, 4.3 WARs, the highest of his career. Highest career home runs with 33. Almost broke the century mark in RBIs and had an 840 OPS, especially after the season he had in Seattle in 2023. I think as a player from that standpoint, you have kind of that breakout year again, especially at his stage in his career. He's 31, going to be 32 next season. You want to stay in a place where you feel comfortable and at home. I think just on his facial expressions from watching him play throughout the season in LA, you can tell that LA just feels like home to him. I think for both sides, it makes the most sense. For Teoscar, it just makes sense to stay in the spot where you have that kind of success and the championship potential is there again, and, the comfortability and whatnot. And also for the Dodgers, he was a really key piece to your championship team. So retaining all that and retaining as much as you can is important on building to championships in the future, because obviously they want to continue doing that with how aggressive they are in free agency and the moves that they make in season for the deadline and whatnot. So it makes sense on both ends, and it's a good deal on both ends. So I love this for both Teoscar and the Dodgers.
Yeah, the only thing that I saw market watch for Teoscar is that the Giants were looking at him. We were listening to people, and we kind of heard that was just a bluff. It wasn't really him going to the Giants wasn't really serious, as him once did seem. Yeah. I think it was, I want to say Friday night. Well, he signed Friday night, right? So
Friday afternoon. Friday night.
Yeah, Friday afternoon we heard the Giants reports. Then he signed Friday night. So it was like, well, that wasn't really true. So, I mean, with rumors and speculation, you always have to take it with a take it into account, because teams do like to throw out bluff, trying to drive up prices and stuff like that, and agents do the same thing. So it's just taken into account.
Speaking of Friday night, big bomb from out west, Friday night into Saturday morning. Corbin Burnes heading to Arizona. Former Cy Young Award winner gets this 6-year, $210 million deal he was looking for with an opt-out after year 2. What an absolute steal for the Diamondbacks.
No, this is an absolute steal. I mean,
dark horse contender team. No one was really talking about it. It was just between the Orioles, Giants, and Blue Jays. And here come the Diamondbacks, literally out of nowhere. Awesome job by their front office.
No, I mean, definitely. I mean, they went and got Corbin Burnes, who I thought was going to end up going back to the Orioles. And, it turns out that's not going to happen now. But, Burnes and Gallen at that 1-2 punch, I mean, that's one of the best 1-2 punches in baseball. I mean, those are two aces, and I mean, this D-backs rotation is legit, and I think they're probably the second best team in the West right now, I would say. But I mean,
yeah, more or less.
I put them ahead of the Padres right now, but that's just me.
I think their team is a little bit more well built, especially after the Naylor trade and the Burnes deal. I would give them the slight edge over the Padres. But I mean, like you said, with the rotation, they got a lot of younger guys mixed in with some vets. Like Gallen on his A stuff is one of the best pitchers in baseball, period. You got Burnes, former Cy Young Award winner. I know Montgomery had a down year last year, but he's a really good lefty to have on your staff. Eduardo Rodriguez, too. And you got the kid, Brandon Pfaadt, as well as Merrill Kelly. Like, you got a lot of people there that you can mix in that rotation, built in with that lineup that has speed, energy, and pop. Like, Diamondbacks are a really well-built team that I think pose a serious threat to the Dodgers.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you got to watch out for the snakes out west. I mean, they're legit this year. They might be legit, and I could see them making a deep run like they did in 2023. You know, they have a good team. So
yeah, I think a lot of people were just kind of disappointed with how things turned out for them last season. But I mean, you have Ketel Marte in his prime right now, literally top 3 in MVP voting last year. If you can keep getting that out of him, if Corbin Carroll kind of breaks out of that sophomore slump a little bit next season, Lourdes still playing at an all-star level, Moreno still playing at an all-star level, Suarez giving you 25 home runs, Naylor probably doing the same, and that rotation, all you got to worry about is part of that bullpen a little bit. You got a really good team there in Arizona. So I'd love to keep an eye on the Diamondbacks this season and see what they do.
Yeah, but in the other news, we had the Nationals picked up Josh Bell on a 1-year deal of $6 million. This is a good deal for the Nationals. I did see reports that he is now 32. He does come back to the Nats after spending the last 2 years bouncing around the league. He was in that Juan Soto deal a couple years ago, if you do remember, going over the Padres. And, you know, I like this. They said he's probably going to be the most DH, and Josh Bell does still have some pop.
Yeah, DC putting him in the DH spot, I think, gives him the best chance to succeed. Doesn't have him worry about playing first. He can really just let it eat when he's at the plate, especially because you have that security blanket in Nate Lowe at first base. He's a Gold Glove type of first baseman. And obviously Bell can still play the position, so it's not like you're just strictly putting him on the bench to just hit. But I love it. It's a low risk, high reward kind of deal for the Nationals, and I think Josh Bell is going to give some really solid numbers. He's still a guy that can put up 20-25 home runs, and as we've seen in the past, he's been a pretty key trade piece at the deadline or even waiver claims. Like 2 years ago, he's a big piece to that Marlins run that got them to the wild card. Yep. And then last year, he almost helped the Diamondbacks claw back into the postseason chase. So Josh Bell definitely still has a lot to offer.
He was also pretty good with San Diego late in their run in 22. He was pretty decent. So moving on to another NL East team, the Mets have made an offer to Pete Alonso to Mets beat right reported. Mets have offered the polar bear $90 million for 3 years, but Alonso wants more years, and apparently to John Heyman, there is a sizable gap between the two sides in negotiations. So this is definitely something to watch. I don't know. The market is very weird right now. We can see it, and you had Soto sign the big deal, so everyone's like, well, what's the actual price and the players now? But no, this is definitely something to watch. I think.
Yeah, I saw Pete wanted something more in the 120 to 150 range, which personally, he's selling himself a little bit high there. Obviously, Pete still has a lot of power potential. He can easily put up 30 to 40 home runs if he really wants to, but he's not kind of the superstar first baseman that he was when he broke onto the scene in 2019 as a rookie. So I think the 90 for 3 is actually a really good spot for him. I think he should look more into that deal. But
if I was Pete, I would have took the 90 for 3, and then with a 4, I would have won an opt-out after the 2. But
yeah, maybe it's more of a thing where he's trying to see if other teams will offer him that money, to see if New York will kind of bite on that to give him what he's looking for to stay in New York. Maybe he really just does want that kind of money and thinks that the deal from the Mets is disrespectful. I don't really know what kind of his thought process is, but if I'm Pete Alonso, I'm taking that $90 million for 3 years deal into a little bit more consideration just because of, one, I think that's kind of perfect for his player value. Two, if you really want to stay with the Mets, honestly, the money shouldn't matter that much. You would still get 30 a year from that. I don't think that's really anything to complain about.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, 30 with the Mets a year, and you get to go join this lineup with Soto and Lindor. And I would just take the 30. This deal now and just take the 30 million a year.
yeah.
I mean, we'll see. I mean, I think Pete does, want the longevity. If he gets hurt, he wants the years on top of it. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and with some of the other trade buzz going around, there was some talks about Luis Castillo's market potentially heating up a little bit. The Mariners shopping him around to some teams, and even Boston sent out an offer that included Tristan Casas and Masataka Yoshida as a potential suitor for the right-handed ace. I don't really know what Boston is doing kind of in that field. They already have a pretty crowded rotation room.
Well, I think this actually came out. So it came out before, this was
Crochet deal?
Before the Crochet deal. So that's why this did come out. Yeah, this was offered before the Crochet deal. And this was their bounce back plan if they didn't get Crochet. But they got Crochet.
But if looking at it from now, post Crochet and even post Bueller, that deal really doesn't make a lot of sense for Boston. Yoshida's still hitting well. He's not playing the field as much. He's more so DHing, but he's still bringing a solid bat to your lineup. And Casas, I don't know why you would try and get rid of him. He's a much better first base option over Dahlbeck. I wouldn't understand why they would do that. But because it was pre-Crochet, pre-Bueller, makes a little bit more sense trying to improve that rotation. Give guys like Bayo, Giolito, Crawford, Houck, some of those guys a little bit more support with a guy that can really just go out there every 5 days and dominate. But I don't know, it doesn't really seem like Boston would suit him well, and giving up those guys for him would really be good for Seattle, but I don't think that's as good of a deal for Boston.
I mean, I think, this was obviously before the Crochet deal, but, you wonder if, this was their, people say this was almost finalized. We'll never know. We're not in the meeting rooms. We're not in the, we're not on the phone, but you really wonder how close this was to end up getting done. And it's definitely, it was an eye-opener. I mean, it actually came out after we filmed the last episode, and we had our fans and comments we saw, they were like, you guys didn't talk about it, and it was just it didn't come up when we were recording. So, but no, it's definitely something to watch. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. I wouldn't have done the deal, but I mean,
I think it was a good no call on both sides too, especially because the Red Sox wanted the Mariners to eat the money in the years on Yoshida's deal. Yeah, I think that's probably the main deal breaker there. Could just be that they didn't want to give up Castillo, but I wouldn't want to take on the rest of his contract.
The Red Sox also got Garrett Crochet and Walker Buehler, so I mean,
exactly. So I'd probably better really off matter at this point. The way that now.
So, yeah.
And then some of the meeting stuff that was going on is that the Dodgers have now been revealed as the 6th team to have the in-person meeting with Japanese star Roki Sasaki. I mean, as many of us already kind of guessed was going to happen, the Dodgers are still kind of labeled as the front runners for Sasaki. I don't really know how much them getting revealed to have had the in-person meeting with him does. I don't know what kind of effect that has, but looking at some of the other clubs that have had a meeting with him, like the Mets, Yankees, Cubs, Rangers, and Giants, those are all definitely potential suitors for him. I just what do you think, basically, is more of what I'm trying to get at here. Is just what do you think them having that meeting does for his sweepstakes almost, basically? Does that sway him more in that direction? Are the rumors true of they're the front runners for Roki, or is this more of just kind of information to be thrown in your face a little bit to get you thinking?
I mean, I think, the Dodgers are of course going to meet with Roki Sasaki. I mean, how couldn't they, right? I mean, they have a nice pool of Japanese talent and the best player in the game, Otani, and Yoshinobu Muto. But I think this is probably just speculation. I mean, it's kind of talk for us. I don't know if he signs with the Dodgers. Where is his spot at the rotation? Because that's the biggest thing, is that rotation's already stacked. to the brim.
Right,
So
he might
it's
have
like,
a pretty sizable role the first year because they're not really expecting Shohei to throw. But say he signs like a 5-year deal or something like that. What about those other 4?
Right. And, you talk about the contract after the 1-year deal. That's going to have some say in these meeting talks is, ending up somewhere long term. So I think this is probably to drive, the international money up a little bit as well. I mean, I always figured he was going to take a meeting with the Dodgers. I mean,
Right.
We all kind of expected it. We just hope he doesn't end up there because you saw me when you first announced it. I was shaking my head. I was like, this can't happen. I mean, if this happens, the Dodgers might just win the World Series again. And
yeah, but I guess follow-up question to that, because I just kind of thought about it a little bit, is the fact that they had a meeting, does that change more of where you think he's going to end up, or is your thought process still the same? Because to me, I still have him going to the Cubs.
See, I don't know. This is weird because the Padres haven't met with him. And I thought the Padres were the front runners for him. Like, I thought
Really?
Darvish, from what I heard that Darvish was the big, like, he went up to the organization and said, you must get it. And, Darvish was apparently a mentor to him. So that
I could see that, especially during the World Baseball Classic. They definitely spent a lot of time together.
Yeah, so that's why I always thought the Padres. But, I mean, the Dodgers, why not go to Dodgers, I don't know if he's going to come east. I really don't think so. I think he's a West Coast type of person. He just seems like it. I think he's either the Padres or the Dodgers, and that's my final guess.
Okay. I still like the idea of the Cubs, just because of stuff I've stated in like previous episodes, like small but big market, because it said that he had trouble handling like the Japanese critics and whatnot. It's more of a pitcher friendly park just because of how the wind affects like hitters and whatnot. And you also got the connection with other Japanese stars like Seiya Suzuki and Shota Imanaga. I think it's the best fit for him because he can also slide right into that number 2 spot his first year and eventually work up to being the ace. I don't think he would have any problem there.
Chicago has, the draw for him, and, it's going to be interesting to see. But, I don't know. Like, the Rangers and the Giants, like, I could maybe see the Giants, but, I mean, the Giants fall short of everyone, it seems like, unfortunately. And
Hall of Famers of showing interest in players and then losing out on them.
Yeah, I mean, like we saw, they lost out. They apparently showed interest in Teoscar Hernández, and then
Judge,
4 hours later,
Harper, Correa, literally last 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I don't.
They probably even showed interest in Shohei at one point, because, I mean, who didn't?
So, I mean, this is definitely interesting. But I don't know. I still think he's a Padre, but that's me. So,
I mean, we'll see it all go down probably in the next couple of weeks here or so.
Well, he has to sign soon, so I believe the date is January 15th, right?
In the next couple of weeks.
It's
week and a half, kind of? 2 weeks?
December 30th now, so we'll definitely see it. So a week and a half, 2 weeks, definitely see it.
Kind of. Ooh, I can't wait for that.
When he signs, it's going to be big. Baseball world's going to be talking.
Baseball will be kind of the talk of the town for the day at least. Hopefully it's not during the NFL playoffs, because that would be bad. But all that aside, there's one other thing that we kind of wanted to break down a little bit here towards the end. Top 10 players going in to the 2025 season. Saw the MLB Nerds list drop. Talked about it a little bit. Didn't want to break down the whole 100, but more so kind of evaluate it and then think of our own top 10 and kind of go back and forth here a little bit. Matt, do you want to kick off with your number 10 and go from there?
My number 10 was actually, he was just shot. He was 10. He was actually 10 on MLB Nerds. Is Zach Wheeler. I don't have to say much. This might have some Philly bias. I'm sorry. But
you're an NL Cy Young.
He was. The people did vote. Remember, we did have our poll up on Instagram. And
it's all right.
People
are
did
wrong.
Vote.
People can be wrong. It's fine.
Okay.
It's fine.
Well, Zach Wheeler, I mean, he's one of the best pitchers in the game. And I don't have to, say that. I mean, he goes out there, takes the ball, and can go 7 innings. And only give up a run or two. And he had a great year last year, and I think, he's going to perform yet again, and I think he's definitely probably the best pitcher in the NL right now. So, I mean, it's him and Skeens. So, I mean, there's good pitching in the NL, but...
Okay, you know what? You're right. I shouldn't react like that. Wheeler is definitely top 3 at worst. 1 when he's on his A+ stuff.
A+ stuff on every day.
Do we have to talk about the Yankees game from July this past year where he gave up 6? That's not A+ stuff, buddy. Anyways, at my number 10 spot, I got the Mets shortstop, Francisco Lindor. Mr. Smile is my number 10. He finally got the recognition that I've been longing for him to finally get. He really can do everything and more that you want out of any player on your team. He has elite defense. Like, there's not really another person that's a better defender at shortstop than Francisco Lindor. He's an excellent switch hitter. He can steal. He can have a 30-30 season and you wouldn't even know about it. But he also was a tremendous leader for that Mets team on their postseason run. And he's going to be on a lot of people's radar, I think, this season. So I got Lindor at 10.
Okay. All right. My 9, I have J-Ram. I like J-Ram a lot. I feel like 9's a good where to put him. He's big leader in the Guardians locker room. He's a great baseball player, but I feel like there's more people above him in my eyes. But I mean, J-Ram's still going to be one of the best players. He's great defensively, great offensively. I mean, does everything well in the baseball field. I think sometimes he gets not as much credit because he plays in Cleveland, but that's my 9.
So my number 9, I got Paul Skeens. I got the Rookie of the Year at number 9. He is my best pitcher in the National League right now. I do still think that Chris Sale should have won the Cy Young Award, but I'm not going to get into that. But Skeens literally has a 5-pitch arsenal that is practically unhittable even when he's not on his A game. He is everything that we thought he was going to be as a prospect. Literally one of, if not the best rookie pitching season that we've seen so far. He can rev it up to 102 at pitch 101. He is the ultimate workhorse that you can have right now. And honest to God, he is a top 10 player in baseball simply after one season. So I'm very excited to see what Mr. Skeens will do in 2025. And honestly, what the Pirates will do, because I think he can hopefully anchor them to at least a wild card, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. It's the Pirates.
Yeah, so for number 8, I put Ronald Acuna Jr. Ronald's coming off the injury. He's going to miss some time in 2025, but, I mean, he's still one of the best players in the game. I mean, this guy can do everything. Plays good defense, can steal bags, can hit leadoff, can hit monster home runs, and he's been that way and probably is one of the best players when healthy. And, there's no question he's not a top 5 player when he's healthy. The reason why he is at 8 is because he is coming off the injury. So, there's a couple people ahead of him just because of that. But, I mean, I expect him to bounce back, and he's probably will end up we do this list again in a year, he'll probably end up in the top 4 in my eyes.
I praise for Ronald. I left him off.
Big Ronald guy.
I left him off more because of that reason you're talking about. Obviously, an ACL injury is nothing to bat your eyes at. It's a hard injury to come back from. I don't know how much he will be like Ronald again when he comes back, but just looking at him in general, obviously everything is there. He's a 5-tool player. His fielding is a little bit more on the below average side, but his arm makes up for that a lot of the time. And offensively, he's everything you can ask for. But for me, he just misses out on my list. And at my number 8, I'm putting Gunnar Henderson. I think Gunnar, more so than Adley, is the future in Baltimore. He has the 30 home run potential. He can swipe 20 to 25 bags as well, and he plays a really good shortstop. And I think Gunnar is going to get one of those monster extensions from Baltimore here in the upcoming years. And he's going to prove to everyone why. Yeah.
After they didn't pay Burnes?
I think that's exactly why they didn't pay Burnes, or part of why they didn't pay Burnes is because they needed the money to stomach Gunnar's extension that they're going to toss out to him. But Gunnar scares me every single time he plays the Yankees. I hate facing him, but I do love watching him play. I think he's going to be a stud for many years. Gunnar's my number 8.
Well, at number 7, I have Bobby Witt Jr. Most likely will probably be the MLB The Show cover athlete. He's definitely going to be it's either going to be him or Soto. But Bobby, one of the best shortstops in the game, like Gunnar Henderson, scares you every time he comes up, plays great defense, and, he just received an extension, and I expect him to, take this Royals team and, take them to the promised land at some point. So
you think Bobby's gonna grab a ring for himself here in Kansas City?
I think at some point he could.
I don't see that in the near future. I could see that in
I see
maybe
it in
4 to 5. Maybe 4 to 5.
I see it in a couple of years, but I mean he's every year we are like, is this the year? This the year? This is the year? I think 2025 might be the year.
Really? Okay. All right. At my 7, I have Tarik Skubal, the reigning AL Cy Young Award winner, the best lefty in the game. He is probably my favorite pitcher to watch right now. He attacks you with the fastball relentlessly, and he wins pretty much every time. I absolutely love Tarik Skubal. I think he's going to pick up right where he left off. He probably won't go back-to-back Cy Young, to be honest with you, because that's really unheard of. But really? Skubal
actually, Cy Young's?
His sinker changeup combo is deadly, and he's just overall, I think, one of the best pitchers in baseball, if not the best pitcher right now. So I'm a big Tarik Skubal guy. I'm gonna put him at 7.
Yeah, I put him at 6 for me. So he was my 6. I think he's one of the best pitchers. He led that Detroit Tigers team to playoff push this year, and I expect him to be the one again and do it again. I mean, repeat. I mean, he's got filthy stuff, and I think he's gonna have another big-time season.
At my number 6, I got Mookie. Now, I know looking just kind of at the base numbers, the home run potential and the pop wasn't as much there. He did deal with an injury last year, so he still had 19 in 116 games, but the year before that he had 39, and the year before that he had 35. So Mookie's home run potential is still, I think, in the 25 to 30 range. He's going to hit for average, he's going to hit for power, and he can play all over the field. He's one of the most valuable players in baseball, let alone one of the most talented, and I love Mookie. As much as, again, I hated to watch him when he was a Red Sox, and I hate to watch him as a Dodger because he's one of the just best pure athletes in baseball right now, and I think he's also just one of the best players in general. So I got him at 6.
Yeah, so my 5 is Paul Skeens. Dylan, you had him earlier on the list. At 9, I have him at my 5. I expect big things in 2025 for Paul Skeens. And NL Cy Young is definitely, I think it's definitely in the running. He's definitely. I think it's, he's going to lead that Pittsburgh Pirates team to a playoff push, and he'll be, the front runner in it. And, hopefully Pittsburgh can sign him long term, not, trade him away like we've seen with other people in the pitching market. So we'll see what happens. But I mean, Paul Skeens, he's going to get media attention as well because of who his girlfriend is. So I mean, that's not the only reason why he's going to get media attention. He's a good looking guy. He plays for the Pittsburgh Pirates, but I have him on my 5. I really expect. I mean, I feel like he's gonna have a really good pitching year for the Pirates this upcoming year.
My number 5, I have J-Ram. I know you had him at your 9, but Jose Ramirez to me is one of the most underappreciated players in baseball and one of the most untalked about players in baseball for really no reason. Last year, the big story with him wasn't until like 2 games left in the season is that he almost had a 40-40-40 season, but they canceled the last game, so he didn't get the chance at that. He needed 1 more home run and 1 more double. I mean, if he accomplished that, he would be talked about the same way I think Shohei was being talked about with that 50-50 club that he created. Not obviously to the same extent because 50-50 was pretty much unheard of, but Jose Ramirez has that kind of X factor about him. He's the leader of that Guardians team. He carries himself just like I don't even know what I'm trying to say, but I love Jose Ramirez. Like 39 home runs, 39 doubles, 118 RBIs. There's not a lot of guys out there that are swinging the bat the way that he is, and he's good from both sides, plays a good third base. Everything that Jose does elevates the Guardians game as a whole and as a team. So, for me, J-Ram is the 5th best player in baseball right now.
Yeah, I mean, I know I had him hot, higher on my list at 9. It's just, he goes unhurdled. I mean, unfortunately, because of where he plays in the market, but J-Ram is still a great player, and he's one of the best. So at my number 4, someone's going to be a little angry, but I have Aaron Judge at number 4. Aaron Judge, we know what you're going to do in the regular season, but are you going to show up in the postseason? Like, what's going on, man? I mean, these postseason numbers are horrible. You can do everything in the regular season, but these postseason numbers we got to clean this up. When you can't perform on the big stage, you lose some of my votes.
I'm not gonna argue too much on the postseason, but
he's still a great player. It's just
he literally just had the best offensive season by a right-handed hitter ever.
What happened in the postseason?
Again, I'm not gonna argue too much about the postseason. Strikeout rates were up. The average was down. OPS was still like 750-ish, I think, but that's not what you're looking for out of a guy that you're paying $40 million a year. So I understand what you're saying from that point. I have him higher on my list, but at my number 4 was Aaron Judge's counterpart from this year, Juan Soto. The big $765 million man comes in at number 4 strictly because of his defense and his base running. He's a below average base runner. He's a liability on defense. We've talked about this before. He's going to be a DH probably by year 5 of that contract. Yes, he can be the best hitter in baseball potentially, obviously coming off a career year where he had 41 home runs, 109 RBIs, and an OPS that just missed the 1,000 mark. He's going to do Juan Soto things. And yes, I know he got nominated for a Gold Glove this year, but let's be honest, Gold Gloves really don't mean anything anymore.
Whoa. Gold Gloves don't mean anything? So playing good defense doesn't mean anything?
When you have Juan Soto nominated for one, you lose the entire kind of purpose behind it.
But look what happened in the 5th inning of the World Series. Okay, my number 3. I probably have said a lot about this person. I was a big hater on this person, definitely at the start of the season. But, he definitely made me my words and turned it around. And my number 3 is Francisco Lindor.
Mr. Smile, top 3 shortstop.
When you can go from hitting 200 and raise your batting average almost 100 points, and then hit 33 bombs and put your team on the back.
Basically do Francisco Lindor things.
He led the Mets to the postseason run that they had and had a big home run against the Phillies. And, I think Lindor is going to hopefully can have another big-time season. And, he gets to join Juan Soto in that Mets lineup, and they're going to be good. So
they're finishing 2nd in the division, I think.
Who's first?
ADL, baby.
Whoa. Phillies going to finish 3rd in the division?
As of right now, yeah. But my number 3, 3rd, I got Bobby Witt. He's the best shortstop in baseball right now. He had the MVP caliber season that he had last year. He's only going to get better. He's 24 years old. He had a 9.4 WAR at the shortstop position. 32 home runs, 57 walks, 31 stolen bases. Sorry, I was looking for stolen bases. So 30-30 season. He has the potential to do that. And I think he even has the potential to go 40-40. He just, he does everything. And he's electric on the base paths. He's electric in the field. And as we saw, he can elevate a team that isn't really that great and take them all the way to the postseason. Kansas City, on paper, is not that great of a team. The team that they took to the postseason last year. They were carried by good pitching, but also really good offensive performances from guys like Witt, Perez, and Pasquantino. But mainly Bobby Witt carrying the forefront of that offense and being an absolute workhorse at shortstop. So not only because of how good he is, but also how valuable he is, I got Bobby Witt at 3rd.
All right. And my number 2, I have Juan Soto. This guy is the best hitter on planet Earth. Don't be mad you didn't re-sign him. This guy,
best hitter on planet Earth is ridiculous.
This guy's just mad that Yankees didn't get him back.
Better off without him.
Soto is probably one of the best hitters in the game right now. And,
yes.
His offense, plate discipline. He shows up and he shows up big. And unlike someone actually performs in the postseason, it's well deserved.
Well deserved. Get out of here.
I have him at 2, and I think he'll probably end up playing up to that big contract, and I think this will probably be one of his best years.
Whatever. Okay. My number two, I have Aaron Judge.
Oh my God, this guy.
Aaron Judge is the best right-handed hitter in baseball right now. You can roll your eyes and shove the postseason stats in my face all you want. He literally had the best right-handed hitting season of all time.
No, I mean, he did.
I mean, he is 6'7". He probably has the most unfair strike zone in all of baseball. He had 322, on base 458, a slugging of 701. That's higher than league average OPS. That's unheard of. He had 58 home runs, 144 RBIs, and had a WAR of almost 11. You can't make that up. As much as I know he struggled in the playoffs, his value there in the regular season was ridiculous. 2024, 184 with a 752 OPS. He had an on-base percentage of 344. So he either struck out or walked. I know he didn't hit the ball as much, but he was still getting on base, which is more than what we could say for his 2022 campaign where he literally just disappeared. But as for 2024 and going into the 2025 season, Aaron Judge is still one of the best players and arguably the best player on the planet.
Okay, at number 1, the overall best player on the planet. He can pitch, he can hit, he can do everything. Is Ohtani. Ohtani is probably the best player in baseball by far. I mean, I use the clear cut. I mean, a guy who can pitch very well and hit very well. I mean, it's pretty unheard of in this day and age of baseball. So Ohtani, I'm excited for him to pitch this year. He does have I think it was announced he is expecting a kid. So congrats to that.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, I have Shohei at number 1 as well. He had his career best season last year with a WAR at 9.2, obviously creating the 50-50 club. Hit 310, OPS of 1036. I mean, the numbers say it for themselves. He is right now the best player in baseball. And honestly, we might not ever see something like him again. So cherishing what we have while he's kind of still playing and at his peak or entering his peak right now pretty much is something that'll be exciting for all of baseball to watch for the next coming years. And I don't see him really moving from that number 1 spot for a while. I think he'll kind of stay up there until his mid-30s. But I mean, there's not much else you can say that hasn't already been said or that you could just look up on social media one click away. Shohei is literally everywhere. He is the face of baseball. He's the blueprint of what people are trying to do nowadays in baseball. In a lot of ways, he is kind of what baseball is. So for those obvious reasons, Shohei is my number 1 in baseball right now.
Yeah, I mean, this was a fun little episode, taking a dive into a top 10, some hot takes here, and I really enjoyed this episode and hope you guys did as well.
Good talking points. I think some of the free agency stuff was really kind of interesting to take a deeper look at and see how that affects not only the teams that they signed with, but the teams that they're leaving, because that's the other half of it. And yeah, I mean, I'm excited for what the rest of the offseason has and for the regular season to get started again. I'm itching for some baseball. I can't lie to you.
Yeah, I mean, well, we're 43 days away from pitchers and catchers reporting. Definitely be interesting. We're approaching on the New Year's. Baseball will be coming soon.
A lot of stuff.
I would say, just keep an eye out on Instagram and TikTok. We'll post highlights from this podcast on there, and we'll keep you guys up to date with any news and stuff like that.
Yeah. For me and Matt, until next time, we'll just be hanging in the dugout.